What's up, YouTube? SwooCube here. Today we're going to talk about how to turn this digital Pokemon Pocket into this printed, proxied, playable, physical Pokemon Pocket. And I believe that I have developed the best way of doing so. And I'm going to explain it all here in this video. So stay tuned. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. I talk about card games here, specifically building draft cubes, which is, spoiler alert, what I believe is the best way to play Pokemon Pocket in real life. So how do we take the experience that we all know and love from this app and translate it into physical cards? It's actually quite simple. So follow me here. Simply gather 1,000 to 2,000 of your closest friends and family, print off enough cards that they all have access to a full collection, and then make sure that at any given time, someone is available to play with you at a wait time of 1 to 3 seconds, right? You could bring a card table into the bathroom stall with you. You can bring people on the bus or however you commute. Whenever you engage with the game, just make sure you have a buddy along, a random buddy from that group of 1,000, right? Obviously, that's not gonna work. Haha, funny joke. We can't replicate all of the benefits of having a digital card game at our fingertips, right? We can't have opponents at a moment's notice. We don't have a meta, right, of infinite number and variety of decks to play with from that infinite number of random opponents. So we have to make some concessions to bring Pokemon Pocket into real life. Now, the method that I spent most of my previous video discussing was simply printing off a handful of decks using card images from the game, proxying those decks and playing with friends and family. I have been using this method. I have a Team Rocket deck, a Butterfree deck. I printed some of the EX theme decks from the app itself, the Blastoise and the Venusaur deck, and do those. I'm using it as a way to teach my kids to play card games, and it is going very well. It's a great rule set with very minor adjustments. Actually, basically no adjustments. You can adapt these digital cards into physical reality and play with your friends and family. Now, playing the same decks against each other is really good for learning. It's really good for teaching. It's good to build familiarity. But for me, as a grown person who wants to, engage with the game and have good strategic experiences over and over again, it leaves a little bit to be desired, because playing the same decks against each other over and over again is just, it's not quite what I'm looking for. And I think many of us would agree with that. So this is where we start to talk about limited and what I believe is the absolute best way to play Pokemon Pocket. So what I have done is built an 81 card collection. This is a curated list of cards from the current Pokemon Pocket card pool, which I believe creates an excellent environment for building decks and playing games against people in real life. Now, limited refers to having a limited set of cards, right? I don't have every card here. I don't have 2 of every card here in the card pool. I just have a limited set. And from this limited set, we build cards. Now, in other card games, this is often done with booster packs. Pokemon TCG Live or the physical TCG or Pocket is not designed for this, right? But other card games are. And so you would sit down at a tournament or a pre-release party and be handed a handful of packs. And from those packs, you'd open it. And from that random pile of cards, you build your deck and play against your opponents. I'm basically creating a space to do something similar here with Pokemon Pocket. Now, limited in Pokemon does have some challenges. Number one is actually the evolution system. So Pokemon is a game that's designed where we are always trying to assemble our combos, right? Our combos are, having a Squirtle that can evolve into a Wartortle and which can evolve into a Blastoise. It's kind of like the key gameplay mechanic of the game, and it's a lot of fun. However, in a limited environment, that makes assembling this extremely difficult, because you really want to have enough copies of these in your deck to be able to reliably get to Blastoise, right? In Pocket, you want your 2 Squirtles and your 2 Wartortles and, your 2 and you might even want a Blastoise EX on top of the 2 regular Blastoises, because you really want to make sure that as consistently as possible, you're hitting your Blastoise. That's how the game is designed. Completely incompatible with something like this. So we have to make a concession. Now, what many real-life Pokemon players in the classic card game have done when building limited cubes like this is allow for something called Mutant Evolution. So in an evolution tree of Squirtle, Wartortle, or Blastoise, you actually allow a greater degree of flexibility in terms of what Pokemon can evolve into what. The most classic way of doing so is simply sticking to colors, right? So any basic water Pokemon could evolve into any stage 1 water Pokemon. This means Psyduck could evolve into Wartortle, which could evolve into Blastoise, or even Articuno could evolve into Wartortle, which could evolve into Blastoise, right? That is an example, a couple examples of what mutant evolution looks like in a limited environment for Pokemon. And I have done so here. This is, I think, the best and cleanest way to implement the Pokemon rule set into a limited environment like this. And I've actually made one additional adjustment to the evolution rules, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But there's also another issue that Pokemon has that makes it challenging to adapt for a limited environment. And that is, Pokemon has like 9 or 10 different colors of cards, different types, right? There's water, electric, fire, grass, fighting, psychic, dark, dragon, fairy, well, fairy not anymore, steel, metal, right? All of these types kind of play in there. There's too many for many types of limited environments to really kind of make that work. So what I have done also with this cube is, in addition to allowing mutant evolution, I have restricted the colors to just 5. We've got water, electric, fire, fighting, and grass. And the reason I've chosen these, this is actually a bad example of a water Pokemon because it's got a weird weakness, but no, actually, no, that one's good. The reason I've chosen this, sorry for bumping the camera here, is that these 5 colors create kind of a weakness pentagram. So fire is weak to water, fire strong against grass, grass is strong against fighting, fighting is strong against electric, electric is strong against water, etc. It creates a nice internal balance system, right? And that's an easy thing to do with Pokemon, is just curate your colors, curate what types of Pokemon are available to you in your environment. So the primary ways that I have used to kind of adapt the Pokemon rule set to a limited draft environment is mutant evolution and restricting my colors to only 5, down from the 8, 9 if you count colorless, right, included in the game. There's actually colorless Pokemon in here too, but they're flexible. So with that said, I'm actually going to take this opportunity now because I do want to explain a couple additional rule changes, but I think it'd be better to just kind of show you rather than tell you. So what we're going to do is show the example of what a draft process would look like, and then I'm going to show you an example deck. And this is where kind of it's all going to come together. So this cube is designed with 81 draftable cards, and they are designed to be drafted in a 3x3 grid. So there's 9 rounds where 2 players will sit down, deal out 9 cards face up like such, and then 1 player will choose a row or a column and select that. So I'll take, I don't know, I like this one, right? Get some lightning Pokemon. My opponent would then choose a row or a column, either 3 cards or 2 cards. And they're kind of have a grass thing going, so they're going to take Execute and Bulbasaur, right? The undrafted cards don't get used this time. They just go off to the side. And we'll do another round, right? Same thing. 9 cards. This time, the other player goes first. So clearly, the player that has Execute and Bulbasaur is really going to like this line. Lilligant and Vileplume, right? And other players probably with, Raichu and Electabuzz maybe would take the Pikachu Sabrina pile, right? And again, these cards go off to the side. You do that 9 times, and you will have a pool of 30-ish cards from which to build your 20-card deck. Now, I have a deck kind of pre-built, and this is where, again, it's all going to come together. So here we have I'm gonna kind of arrange these by stage and type, right? The Pokemon from a kind of a sample draft pool. And I'm gonna build a sample deck here. Now you'll notice a couple things. One, I've got many different colors of Pokemon here. And I don't really have enough water Pokemon to build kind of a clean 2-stage evolution tree, even with the mutant rules. And I found that there was really no way to make this work in the format that I've chosen to build, right? A small 81 cards, 9 rounds of grid draft. So there's a couple additional tweaks to deck construction and the rules. What I have done, and bear with me here, it's gonna make sense, is allowed any basic Pokemon to evolve into any stage 1 Pokemon. And any stage 1 Pokemon can evolve into any stage 2 Pokemon. However, if you are evolving Pokemon along an evolution tree, like the colors don't match, so like if I wanted to evolve Caterpie into Vaporeon, I would need to make sure that Caterpie had a water energy attached first. And I'm going to talk about the energy generation here in a second. Don't want to just kind of overwhelm with information. I think showing is better than telling. So where was I? Okay, going kind of back to where I had it. So basically, with mutant evolution rules, any basic can evolve in any stage 1, which can evolve into any stage 2. Now this actually presents another problem for the Pokemon Pocket rule set, which is the deck consistency and size is really designed so that a line of Pokemon should only be 2 basics, 2 stage 1s, 2 stage 2s. If we were to introduce a rule to the game that would allow 4 basics to evolve into 4 stage 1s, to evolve into 2 stage 2s, basically every game would play out exactly the same. Even though the Pokemon themselves would be different, you'd always get to your end game relatively quickly, relatively consistency with no variability, and it wouldn't work. It's too open. We need restrictions. Games without restrictions are no fun. Think about Monopoly, right? If you just could take whatever money from the bank you wanted whenever you wanted, it would not be a fun game. It would just be a dice roll simulator where whoever landed on the right properties first would win. So we don't want this much flexibility. And this was a problem that I really spent a lot of time thinking about. How do we make, mutant evolution work in this way for this rule set? And I believe I have come up with, frankly, I think it's a banger of an idea. And in practice, it's so much fun. That rule simply is, while any Pokemon can evolve, any basic to any stage 1 into any stage 2, and I talked a little bit about the extra restriction, like if I wanted to evolve a Porygon into an Executor, it would need to have water energy, or if I wanted to evolve, Vulpix into Go-Goat, it would need to have grass energy, right? Just to kind of keep a little bit of restrictions in place. The absolute clincher for this is that as you're building a deck, you have to prearrange your evolution tree. So, for example, I could say, as I'm building my deck, and in gameplay, Porygon Squirtle, Vaporeon Menshao, Blastoise Greninja is an evolution tree, which means in game, if I draw Porygon, that Porygon could only evolve into Vaporeon or Menshao. And once I have a Menshao and a Vaporeon on the field, that Pokemon could evolve into either Blastoise or Greninja, right? This allows games to function like they do in actual Pokemon Pocket, where in any evolution line, there's 2 stage 1s, 2 stage 2s, and 2 stage 3s. It's super clean and it's great. Similarly, this could be a secondary line where Caterpie and Vulpix could evolve into Executor and Go-Goat. And then I've got Celebi EX kind of over here as my big utility basic, my standalone, artillery basic, whatever you want to call it. Celebi. Now this restriction opens up a ton of really, really cool deck building options and really interesting strategies. So for example, right, with this set, I know that I'm going to be building a 2-color deck. I'm going to want water energy. I'm going to want grass energy. But how I construct my lines actually kind of matters. For example, I've got Vaporeon here. Oftentimes Vaporeon's best value comes when it's not kind of part of, you don't really want to evolve from Vaporeon because the ability's of such high value. So maybe I put Vaporeon over here in this tree and maybe Go-Goat over here. So you know, I could get to Greninja or Blastoise provided I get the energy set up right. And Vaporeon could be, you know, part of a separate line, and this would allow me to make sure that I could, you know, get really all three of these Pokemon on the field at the same time, which is what you'd really want to do, right? So even from the same pool of Pokemon, how you arrange your evolution trees matters a lot for gameplay. Now, you're probably thinking, oh gosh, this sounds complicated. This sounds like a lot of work to track, right? How do I remember what my allowable evolutions are when I'm playing a game? You know, it's almost as if it'd be like convenient to have a high-powered computer with a camera on it in our pockets at all times, you know, everywhere we go. Simply take a picture of your deck before you play. When you play, have it available to you and your opponent to see. So when playing this way, we're playing open decklist games, which I think is actually the most fun way to play Pocket anyway, because there's a small enough number of cards that you can kind of track and calculate your odds on the fly and play around what you think your opponent might have, right? So that is, I mean, really kind of how I make this thing work. With the 81 card set of cards that I have, 9 rounds of grid draft, which I showed, you build your Pokemon evolution trees, making sure that you have your energy set up right. And I'll show kind of the trainers, right? Every deck, every player gets 2 Pokeball and 2 research. I don't want to make players randomly select those. You really want 2 of these in every deck. So, you know, we're not really building 20 card decks. We're building 16 card decks, but that's how the game works. And for now, it's cool. So you got those trainers, and I randomly selected a couple potions, an Erica, a Misty, and a Leaf. And we have kind of an interesting deck here that we can sleeve up, shuffle up, and play against an opponent who's done a similar deck building process to us. And when we sit down, we'll each have a picture of our decks, and we can refer to them at any time, right? So I'm going to show you an example turn, and this is where I'm going to talk about how I do energy generation, right? So sample hand, research, Celebi, Vaporeon, Manshao, Leaf. All right, that is a playable hand because we've got a basic. So Celebi goes out, and away we go. Let's say we're playing second. The opponent takes their turn. We've got first energy, so we draw our card, Blastoise EX, and we go to town, right? Step 1, obviously, we're playing research. Draw 2 cards. Not getting any more basics. Not so great, but now it's time to attach our energy. And this is the last change to the rules that I've made, the energy change, which I believe really opens it up, and it's like perfect fit. So I don't use energy cards, right? Energy cards are outdated, clunky, physically annoying. Like, we don't need to have a separate pile of these around. We can use dice, beads, whatever, some sort of colored counter that you can keep track of and easily place on your cards is the best way to do this. So what I have done is gotten a $1 pack of like bracelet beads from Walmart, which kind of actually has all the colors I need, and it costs 99 cents, and it's perfect. So what I do at the start of the game, when you build your deck, you determine your energy colors, right? This deck obviously wants grass and water, and I have so I have my players select 30 beads to be your energy pool. 30 energy, basically. It's meant to simulate an infinite pool, but we can't do infinite because we're in physical space, so 30 is a good number. You're normally only placing 7 or 8 energy in a game of Pokemon anyway. So you select your 30, right? With this deck, let's just say we do a even 15-15 split. Grass, water, put them in a cup. Every turn, you give the cup a little Yahtzee shake, and instead of taking 1, I actually take 2. So you pull 2, this is 2 grass, but it could just as easily be a grass and water, right? So one of the 2 that you draw, you attach to a Pokemon. The other goes back in the cup. Now next turn, draw your card. Aha, got a Vulpix. So now we got a basic. Another basic on the bench. Go to energy generate, give a cup of Yahtzee shake, pull 2. This time we got 2 water. Well, lucky for Celebi, she's already got her grass, and now we can start attacking with Celebi. Could have just as easily put that water energy on Vulpix, and then the following turn, Vulpix would be eligible to evolve into Vaporeon. Right, that's how the energy generation works. I did a lot of math behind this method, the real difference here is that in Pokemon Pocket, every single turn is a coin flip. If you have 2 energies in your deck, right? It's 50-50 chance that you're going to get the energy of the type you're looking for, and a 50% chance of being disappointed. With the method I've chosen, where you randomly select 2 and then keep 1, instead of a 50-50 chance, it's actually a 75% chance that you're going to see the energy that you want on the turn that you want it. That increase in odds does a lot for making gameplay predictable with multicolor decks. Now, it also, you could make a 3-color deck with this. And if you're doing that, selecting 2, you have 3 different colors, the chance of pulling the one you want is actually a 67% chance over 1 turn. Now, over multiple turns, the odds change, but they're always higher than they are under the coin flip method. Now, the downside, it's not a downside, it's just different. In Pokemon Pocket, you always know what the next energy coming is. With this, you don't, right? This method, you can't plan ahead that way, but you always have a greater than a coin flip chance of drawing the energy you want. So this allows players to build multicolor decks, like the deck that I have been kind of demonstrating with a high degree of flexibility, but imposes enough restrictions that you can't just put the best cards from every color. You have to kind of try and build a cohesive deck with a plan. That's the idea. So this video was a little longer than I anticipated. If you stuck with me to the end, thank you very much. I have much more I can talk about here, right? I haven't really even showed off the full list, so I will do a video where I break down kind of every card that I've included, why I've made the choices I've made for building this cube. So that'll probably be the next stop here on the Pokemon Pocket IRL train. Thank you very much again for your time and attention. Swoo Cube out.